of artificial intelligence. So over to Srijith.
Hi, good morning. I'll be talking about some of the recent advances in artificial intelligence, especially focusing on three systems which has been developed in artificial intelligence for playing games such as chess, Deep Blue, DeepMind, and Deep QA. So first I will talk about Deep Blue. Is there a way to increase the audio?
It's on.
That's on. Isn't it audible?
Yes.
It's not.
So there's no volume here.
There's no
No
volume.
volume to adjust.
Yeah.
This is turned.
Is it audible or is it less audible? Shall I proceed? It's not at all audible now. Probably I have to do this. Hello? Yeah, it's better now, right? Okay, sure. Thanks. That's fine. So I'll talk about this Deep Blue system, which is a chess playing system which was developed by IBM. And this was the first computer chess playing system to win a chess game against a reigning champion in chess, as well as to win a match against him. And do you know against whom Deep Blue was played and won the chess game? Yeah, Garry Kasparov. So we will see a video of this Deep Blue versus Garry Kasparov, which is famously known as the man versus machine game.
And in the mid-game, analyzing millions of possible scenarios by sheer brute force, Deep Blue has led Kasparov into making a poor move. Kasparov is rattled. He defends what he can, but it's clear that the computer will reliably do what he himself would do. And he recognizes that he has already lost. On Deep Blue's 19th move, the champion resigns. For people watching around the world, it is a slow motion moment.
Deep Blue has defeated world champion Garry Kasparov in an absolutely
IBM retired Deep Blue and would never competed again. But the improvement of chess.
Okay, here's an excerpt of this famous game between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov. So this is considered one of the biggest achievements in the history of artificial intelligence. So far people believe that it is unable to beat a human player in a game of chess, but it is considered as a breakthrough in the whole history of artificial intelligence. So it all started as a project at Carnegie Mellon University. So the project was initially known as Deep Thought, and this was later acquired by IBM, and they developed this system called Deep Blue. So a first match was held between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov in 1996, in which the first game was won by Deep Blue, while the Garry Kasparov won the later game or either draw with Deep Blue. So he finally won the match which held between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov in 1996. Later, IBM upgraded this machine and they came up with something called Deeper Blue. And a rematch was held between Garry Kasparov and Deeper Blue in 1997. And in that match, the Deeper Blue beat Garry Kasparov in the score like 3.5 to 2.5. Deeper Blue won 2 games, Garry Kasparov won 1 game, and the rest of the games were drawn. So it became the first computer in the history to beat a reigning world champion in the game of chess in 1997. So now we look at how typically, what's the artificial intelligence behind these kind of game playing systems, and why is it difficult for typical game playing systems to play a game of chess. So typically, the artificial intelligence technique that is used is something called game tree. So the game tree consists of nodes, which is basically representing the position of a game at a particular point in time, and the various children shows us various possible legal moves available from that position. So this is the position of a chess at a particular point in time, and these are the various legal moves you can take. Now, typically for games like tic-tac-toe, you construct a game tree until for a depth until you estimate whether you can win or lose, and try to traverse different paths in the game tree to estimate which path will lead you to the win. Now, this is not possible with a game like chess, because the branching factor in game like chess is like 35. That is, from a particular position you can make 35 different moves. So, and also the depth you have to traverse to estimate whether you will win or lose is like 50. So the number of possible games or number of possible chess games that is possible is like 35 raised to 50, which is like 10 raised to 120. And this is totally impossible to store on a computer. And the traditional method of searching a game tree to find out a suitable path to win breaks up. Now, this game tree algorithm is very old, and it was proposed in 1950s in a paper called Programming a Computer for Playing Chess. And do you know who is the author of that paper? He is a very famous guy. He is known for his contribution in another field, but not in chess. He is well known for his contribution in information theory. He is known as the father of information theory. He is Claude Shannon. So Claude Shannon is the father of the information theory. He established the field of information theory in his paper, which he published in 1948. And he is also one of the main contributor of this game tree, as well as the minimax algorithm. So we'll look at okay. So in a game like chess, instead of we traversing the tree until a depth of something like 50, what we do is that we traverse until a depth of something like 5 or 6, and then evaluate the chances that you will win from that position. And that the chance that you will win from that position is determined by some function known as the evaluation function. So the evaluation function is a function of your board position. Based upon your board position, it will output some value which gives the likelihood that you will win from this board position. So it measures the goodness of a given chess position. And Deep Blue uses an evaluation function which consists of something like 8,000 parts. And each of these parts has been specifically designed by the grandmasters in chess, which evaluates whether from that particular board position you will win or lose. So some of these, like the number of pieces you have at the current board position, or the number of horses you have in a current board position, all that determines whether you will win from that position or lose. So these parameters corresponding to these different parts of the evaluation function has been learned by the system itself by analyzing a lot of different games that has been played by different grandmasters. So Deep Blue also uses a variant of this minimax algorithm, where it searches up to a depth of something like 8 nodes or 8 levels, and then uses this evaluation algorithm to determine whether you will win from that position or you will lose. So here is how this minimax algorithm typically works. So the idea behind the minimax algorithm is to pick the action that minimizes the worst possible loss at each state. So your opponent always tries to minimize your objective, while you try to maximize your objective that is minimized by your opponent. So this is the current position that you are in, and this is what the opponent will try to do. So when you evaluate, you will find that you may obtain a maximum of 0 or 1 here, but the opponent tries to minimize your objective, which results in 0 here. And here we are following a depth first traversal of the tree. And this opponent chooses a negative -1 here for this node. Yeah. So again, it chooses a -1 here. So you among 0, -1, -1, the maximum you can get is 0. So you try to follow this path. And this is the minimax. This is how the minimax algorithm proceeds. Now you can consider the various variants of this minimax algorithm, such as alpha beta pruning, where you avoid evaluating some branches if you already find a branch which gives you a better answer. So for example, in this case, with your depth first traversal, you found that you may get a value of 0 here, but evaluating this branch, you find that it is -1. So there is no point in evaluating this branch, because what this provides to this is -1 or something less than -1. So we can avoid traversing these branches using this alpha beta pruning. So the deep blue searched the game tree up to a depth of something like 12 ply or 12 levels, and used this evaluation function to evaluate the quality of the nodes at that depth. And this is the configuration of the deep blue. So the deep blue was able to perform this search up to a depth of 12 because of the raw computing power it has. It has a very high-end configuration. It is a very high-end configuration system. It is treated as a supercomputer, and it was the 259th fastest supercomputer when it was introduced. And because of its configuration, it was able to evaluate up to 200 million positions per second. And also because of the highly fine-tuned evaluation function, it was able to make better predictions. So because of this raw computing power and quality of evaluations, it was able to beat Garry Kasparov in its play at 1997. Now we'll look at another play called Go. How many of you are familiar with the Go play? Okay, only very few, I guess. Have you heard of this play before, Go? Okay, so basically this. So first, this became popular very recently. Very recently means like 3-4 months back, when there is a startup called DeepMind, which was later acquired by Google. They developed a system called AlphaGo, which beat a professional Go player in a match held 3 months back. So he was a top-ranked Go player, and his name was Lee Sedol. So this AlphaGo became famous after that win, because until now people considered that it was difficult for a computer system to beat a human professional Go player. And when this AlphaGo was able to beat this professional Go player like Lee Sedol, who was considered as kind of Roger Federer in the play of Go, it became very popular after that. And here's a small video which shows the winning of this Go play, the AlphaGo.
I would have liked to see the counting.
Yeah, we'll get an official count at some point, but I'm going to trust Michael's count on this. So I think we're going to be wrapping up shortly, going to the press conference. But big congratulations, I think, to once again to the AlphaGo team with the final result of 4-1.
4 wins for AlphaGo.
Very impressive indeed. Really strong comeback today, I think we have to say. Right, Michael, would you agree with that?
Yes. It looks like.
So before this match with Lee Sedol, it also conducted a match with the European Go champion, and it won the match 5-0 against that European Go champion. But the very strange thing here is that Go is a much more simpler game than chess, but it took almost 2 decades for a computer system to beat a professional human Go player. After it has first achieved that with chess, in 1996. It took almost 20 years to do this. And what is so complicated about code? We'll see that. So this is how a Go board looks like. The chessboard is something like 8x8 board, and the board used in Go is like 19x19. The rules used in Go is much more simpler than the chess. In chess, each piece has a different rules, while in Go, all the pieces have the same rule. So the idea here is to place your pieces. So again, you have there will be, it's a two-player game. One player will be using white piece, and the other player will be using a black piece. The idea is to place your pieces in this board so that you will cover maximum territory as possible. So you will cover a territory more than you will cover an area more than your opponent. That's the basic idea in Go. So for example, there's also this idea of capturing a piece. So if you keep, if you are a player playing with white, and if you keep a white piece here, then it will surround this black piece, and in that case, you will be able to capture this black piece. So otherwise, these rules associated with placing these pieces are very simple in Go, and there is it's much less complicated than playing a chess. But the problem here is that at each, when you want to place a piece, at every point in the game, you are faced with much more number of choices than the chess. In a chess game, you typically have to make a choice around 35 number of possible positions you can make a move. But in a game like Go, it is possible to make a move in at least 250 different positions. So that basically means the branching factor. So if you consider a game tree of Go and chess, it's not very clear here. If you consider a game tree, the branching factor in chess is like 35, while a branching factor in Go is like 250. So it is much more broader. The game tree is much more broader than you typically find in chess. Also, the depth in which you have to traverse to see if you win or lose is like you have to traverse around 150, up to a level of some 150 or 180 to find whether you will win or lose. So the depth you have to traverse is also much higher than that typically you find in the games of chess, which is like 18 chess. So this will result in much larger number of possible games with Go than chess. So for example, number of games possible with Go is like 10 raised to 761, while that with chess is 10 raised to 120. So just to compare this number with probably how big is this number? The number of atoms in the universe is like 10 raised to 80. So these numbers are quite large that is totally impossible to store it on a computer and use traditional search-based techniques to see if you win or lose. So the problem here is the breadth as well as the depth. So how do you overcome this? Now this is overcome in a system like AlphaGo by using a technique called Monte Carlo tree search. So in Monte Carlo tree search, we don't try all possible branches, but we randomly try out some branches. Okay, so that's the idea behind pure Monte Carlo tree search, where instead of trying out all possible branches, you try out say 100 randomly chosen branches, and you evaluate your position based upon that 100 randomly chosen branches. And now in Monte Carlo tree search, you not only just explore or you not only just choose it randomly, but also you consider the previous information that you have, that you obtained by previous evaluations of the tree. Okay, so previously, for example, that you have evaluated a tree and found. So this is the search tree at some particular point in time, and you have to perform a Monte Carlo tree search from this node. Okay, so in a pure Monte Carlo tree search, you choose all these nodes, all these children nodes randomly. But in a Monte Carlo tree search, which is used in AlphaGo, they consider they exploit the information that you have, that you obtain when you choose this node previously. For example, in a search which has happened before, you have traversed through this path and you found that you won out of 10 traversals 7 times. So this node carries that information, that how many times you have traversed through this node before, and out of total number of traversals, how many times you have won. So the 7 is the number of winnings and 10 is the total number of traversals. So when you search, you need to consider that information that you have before. So you have to exploit that information, at the same time you have to explore also. So it balances this exploration and exploitation when you do this tree traversal. So it uses a expression, something called upper confidence bound, which is used in machine learning setting, something called banded setting. So this upper confidence bound consists of 2 terms. The first term considers the number of wins when you traverse through some particular nodes, which is basically exploit the information you have. And this thing help you to explore. Like as the time increases, if you don't traverse through this node Ni, this quantity increases. So this will prefer those nodes which has not been explored recently. So there is an exploration term also which contributes, and you trade off this exploitation and exploration when you want to make a next move. So it basically consists of 4 phases. First, you need to select a path based upon this equation, which trades off exploration and exploitation. Say for example, you decide to take this path and you reach here, and then you do a random playout from this node to determine whether you will win or lose. Okay? And random playout will, for example, has determined that you will lose, and then you backpropagate that information all the way back to this node. So all the nodes in this path also get updated based upon this information whether you win or lose. So for example, it has become 7 by 11 now and 11 by 22 now. So this is the idea behind Monte Carlo tree search. It reduces your search space. The breadth that you have to traverse to find out whether you win or lose, is reduced by using this Monte Carlo tree search. Then it learns an evaluation function using machine learning techniques. So in deep learning, we use handcrafted evaluation function, but in AlphaGo, the evaluation function is learned using machine learning technique. So what it basically uses is something like deep learning, or recently convolutional neural networks have become famous because of their huge improvement it has brought about in the field of computer vision. So what it learns is 2 types of evaluation function. One is the value network, and another one is the policy network. So what value network gives, this is the value network is given the current board position, what is the likelihood that you win? So this is a real valued number. It provides you a real valued number, which provides the likelihood that you win from this particular board position. And what the policy network gives you is that from the current position of the board, it gives you a distribution over all possible legal moves you can make from this particular board position. So this is a board position, and this is a distribution over all possible legal moves you can take. So this both value network and policy network has been trained using in a supervised manner from some 30 million positions of games played by human experts. And after learning this policy network, they play some games based upon this policy network they have learned, and use reinforcement learning to update the parameters in the policy network. So they use this combined approach. They combine the supervised learning as well as reinforcement learning to learn both this value network and policy network. That's the basic idea. And then the value of a state is decided by the value network as well as the random playout that you do based upon your policy network. So this is how the Monte Carlo tree search happens in AlphaGo. So this is the selection stage where, for example, you decide to choose this path, and then you expand this path, this node, by doing a random playout, and you will get a reward. and based upon the reward as well as the value of the board at this particular position, you update the values at these nodes. And yeah, this is the basic how the MCTS works in AlphaGo. So the AlphaGo used against the least role performed an asynchronous multi-threaded search. It consists of some 40 search threads over some 1,200 CPUs and 1,170 GPUs. What are the implications of AlphaGo success? The implication is that it has brought an end of an era. Like all the board games are more or less done and it's time to move on. That's one of the famous quote by a person. So now all the board games have been all the computer system was able to beat human players in almost all the board games, and it's no more interesting for people to work on board games. That was the main implication of this AlphaGo success. AlphaGo was one of the most complicated game, and even that was devised by human, and even that game, the computers were able to beat professional Go players. So how it is able to do is that it is able to play much more number of games than a human could do. It was playing, it was trained over some millions of games, while humans are trained over very few thousands of games. So that was one of the restrictions of these systems. These systems are not data efficient. So humans can learn from a very few number of examples, but these systems requires a large number of examples to learn something as good as humans can do. One advantage of this AlphaGo is that it is very general purpose, unlike Deep Blue. Deep Blue, the evaluation functions has handcrafted for particular game of chess. But here, the AlphaGo, there is no handcrafted rules. Everything is learned from the data that you give to the algorithm. So one morning, AlphaGo can wake up and decide to play some other game like cricket or whatever. Or you can even do something like courses as computer science. So that was one of the huge implications of this AlphaGo. So we'll see how, there's a small video which shows how it differs from.
Is to see just how differently the two machines work. Deep Blue was programmed to recognize the value of each piece on the chessboard. It then used raw computing to search every possibility to work out which one was best. It's a bit like trying every password combination until the safe unlocks. But ask Deep Blue to do anything other than play chess, like even play a much simpler game, and it just won't know where to start. AlphaGo is different. Like a human, it can't measure all the possibilities in Go. There are just too many. Instead, AlphaGo teaches itself to play the game by watching thousands of others, playing matches against itself, and learning from its own mistakes. When historians come to write about the 20th century, I believe this match will be seen as a pivotal moment in our relationship with technology. Because as DeepMind software shows, we may be entering an age of thinking machines, general artificial intelligence, capable of carrying out a huge number of tasks currently done by humans. Whether or not DeepMind wins the game, it's likely that intelligent machines are going to have a profound impact on the world around us. AI.
So the success of AlphaGo has a huge implication in various other areas also. We can be used in various other areas like healthcare or space exploration, and it's going to be quite useful in future. Now we will look at another game playing system called IBM Watson. So IBM Watson was developed, of course, by IBM as a computer system to play against humans in the US quiz show Jeopardy. So how many of you know this US quiz show Jeopardy? Yeah. So basically we'll see a small video of how this show goes.
The New York metropolis is Bison City. Watson, what is Buffalo? Yeah. Magical mouse dirty tour for 400. Itchy, the mouse.
So basically, you have to choose one column, one box from this, matrix, and each column shows the topic. So this corresponds to some topic, and this corresponds to some other topic. And when you choose one box, you will get a clue, and you have to answer what is it about based upon that clue.
And Scratchy the cat starred in Skinless in Seattle on a show within this Fox show. Watson, what is The Simpsons?
So once you have the clue, among all these three components, all the these three candidates have to press a buzzer, and who presses that buzzer first will get an opportunity to answer. And it seems that Watson pressed the buzzer here first, and Watson has the opportunity to answer to this clue.
Cite familiar sayings for 400. Familiarity is said to breed this from the Latin for despise. Watson, what is contempt? Let's finish Magical Mouse 32. In 1939's cartoon The Pointer, this guy got a new, more pear-shaped body, and pupils were added to his eyes. Watson, who is Mickey? Mickey Mouse, yes. Alas, even a broken one of these.
Somebody have an answer to this? Yeah, great.
He's on your wall is right twice a day. Watson, what is clock? Clock is correct.
Good. So this is how the Watson answered in this Jeopardy quiz show, and it became the first computer to beat humans in this quiz show, and it happened in 2011, I believe, and it was another major breakthrough in this whole history of artificial intelligence. So to achieve this, one have to answer like at least 70% of the questions with precision like 80%, less than 3 seconds. That's the main thing, less than 3 seconds. You need to search your database, everything, and find answer to the questions. But it's just a clue. It's not even a properly framed questions. So the clue is very hard to even for the humans to comprehend and find an answer. And you have to find an answer to the clue less than 3 seconds. That's the challenge that Watson have to face, and let's see how it is, various components in Watson and how it does. So it uses a lot of different techniques from a lot of different fields like information retrieval, natural language processing, knowledge representation and reasoning, machine learning, and computer-human interfaces. So this is the architecture that is used in this. So Deep QA is the basic question answering system behind Watson, and this is the architecture used by the Deep QA. So these are the various sources it will search to find out the answer. The sources can be Wikipedia or newswire article or some encyclopedias or some other taxonomies. And yeah, so basically it receives a question as the input, and finally it has to provide an answer with a confidence score with each of these answers. So it will press the buzzer only when the confidence that is associated with the answer is above a particular threshold. If it is less than a threshold, something like 20 or 15, it is not going to press the buzzer. So these are the various components in the system. So first it perform an analysis of this question, something called question and topic analysis, and based upon that it decide what kind of answer it could be. It could be, is it a answer could be a country or a place or a thing or something else. And that is the, so then it generates a set of candidates which is called the hypothesis generation. So that can be done parallelly. This shows that hypothesis generation can be done parallelly. And then it collects more evidence for the hypothesis it has generated based upon the sources it has, and try to score the hypothesis based upon the evidence it has collected. And based upon that score, it can finally rank the different hypotheses or different candidate answers with some confidence. So the content, the data that is used by Deep QA is basically the Wikipedia article, the newswire articles, the encyclopedias, dictionary, ontologies, etc. And first, what it does is that question analysis. What are the various things involved in question analysis is that it has to classify the questions as whether it is a puzzle, is a math, or is a factual question of some kind of definition. So this classification is done using some machine learning techniques that it has learned before. And then it has to identify the lexical answer type. What is the answer type it has been looking for, whether it is a country, whether it is a place, or it is some person. So for example, in this clue, this is a clue which is basically provided by the Jeopardy quiz master. Chile shares its longest border with this country. So in this case, the lexical answer type is a country. And do you know which is this country? Argentina. Yeah, sure. Yeah, when hit by electrons, the phosphor gives off electromagnetic energy in this form. And what's the answer to this? Right. Okay. So these are the, so you need to find out this lexical answer type, and this involves a lot of natural language processing techniques such as part-of-speech tagging, parsing, or semantic role labeling. So we don't go into the details of those things. Basically, those things also involve some kind of machine learning to do all these kind of tasks. Yeah, also it can perform some kind of decomposition of the question, like decompose into two parts and search simultaneously for these two and try to find out the candidate answer at the intersection of these two answers. Now, once you find this lexical answer type, then it searches its sources to find out some candidate answers. So in this step, the importance is given to recall. It tries to find out as many answers as possible rather than precision, how accurate they are. So for example, for the previous question on Chile, it may come up with candidate answers such as Argentina, Bolivia, and Brazil, and it just filter out some low-scoring hypotheses and keep these hypotheses for further processing. In the next stage, it gathers more and more evidence for the candidates that it has generated in the previous step by again searching the different sources and score these candidates based upon the evidence it has collected. For example, we have this clue before. So a hypothesis can be obtained by substituting that candidate that we have generated in this clue. So this is the hypothesis you have. Chile shares its longest land border with Argentina. Now when you search Wikipedia, you can find evidence supporting this, such as Argentina and Chile share the world's third longest international border. Now, a score can be calculated based upon how much word overlap is there between the evidence that we have collected and the hypothesis you have generated. So in this case, you have this Argentina, Chile share border are the words which are common in both, and therefore there are many words which are common across them, and there is a higher support for this hypothesis that Argentina is the one which shares its longest border with Chile. It also considers various other information such as spatial information and temporal information. For example, the spatial information gives us a clue that the Brazil is not a candidate in this case because Brazil is further north than Chile. Also, in some other questions you can consider, for example, if you are dealing with clues such as death of some famous personality, you can consider this temporal information also. So once you have different kinds of evidence profiles, so for example, it considers the location-based evidence profile, or passage support, or popularity. In popularity, we can see that Bolivia is getting a higher value than Argentina because there is a dispute between Bolivia and Chile, and there are many people searching for Chile and Bolivia together. So the popularity is higher for Bolivia, but based upon the other factors such as location, source reliability, we find that the deep QA system finds that Argentina is better than Bolivia, and finally given an answer that Argentina is the answer to this question. Now, this is the configuration that is used by Watson, and it seems that it can process around 500 gigabytes of data, which is equivalent to 1 million books per second. So again, as we saw in the case of AlphaGo, the Watson is also a very general purpose machine. So it can be trained and used for various different domains like healthcare. For example, it can be used as a decision support system which can aid doctors in diagnosing patients in healthcare, something like this. And it can help in answering the queries of customers in e-commerce websites. So recently people have developed an e-commerce website such as this. which this question is a kind of very interactive website where the Watson asks a question to the customer and he will answer, and based upon that answers, the Watson will recommend some things. And this is another interesting example where Watson is used. Sorry, that is in cognitive toys. So these cognitive toys are used as educational toys for children. And another important use is in massive online open courses, where large number of students will be taking a course, and it is impossible for the instructor or very few number of TAs to answer all the queries by the students, and this IBM Watson can be used in these kind of situations where you have to answer a large number of queries. So I'll just show a video of this cognitive toy, which answers the questions from
Hi, my name is Lily.
children.
Nice to meet you.
How far is the moon?
The moon is about 250,000 miles
That's
from
a
Earth's
lot.
average. What is 2 plus 2?
4.
Awesome job, Grayson.
What is the speed of light?
The speed of light is 186,000 miles per second.
Yeah. So these systems that we have seen has a lot of applications, and it can be used in large number of different domains also. That's some of the unique properties of these systems. Now we'll look at this. So we have seen some of the systems, and there are many other systems which has been developed in the past decade, such as these personal assistants that we see in Apple phones, such as Siri, Google Translate, and autonomous driving vehicles. And the development of all these systems has led Professor Stephen Hawking to infamously say that the future of self-improving AI could gain actual general intelligence, leading to an unexpected AI takeover. So do you agree with this statement? Do you think there will be a AI takeover soon, something that we will see in some science fiction movies? How many of you support that? Okay, very few, right? So all of you have more belief in AI that it is going to help the humankind in future for solving a lot of different problems. And I also believe that there is only going to be a help to the humankind in solving large number of problems that we face in our real life. Problems in health, transportation, robotics, in space exploration. Do you recognize this picture? Yeah. And how about this one? Interstellar. And you know the name of this guy? Charles, right? Yeah. So let's see how things will go, whether only future can tell us whether it is going to be a threat to humanity or whether it is going to be a help to humanity. That's all. Thank you very much. And I have a question for you, right? You have a question for students? And this is a question. Who, when, and where the term artificial intelligence was coined? Somebody can answer? Please raise your hand when you want to answer. No searching the mobile phones now.
There's no Wi-Fi, I guess. But
Okay. Shall I tell the answer?
John Nash?
No, not John Nash. But you are close to that. It's not John Nash.
anyone? No one?
When was
Raise
it
your
coined?
hands. The back.
Alan Turing?
Oh no, not Alan Turing.
John von Neumann?
Not John von Neumann. Again, we are close to that.
Marvin Minsky?
It's not Marvin Minsky actually, but it's a contemporary of Marvin Minsky. And which year it was proposed? Any idea what, when?
50s, 1950s.
Yeah, 1950s.
And that person also said that in around 10 or 20 years, like we will live in the era of AI, but that dream vanished after that's all.
Okay. Yeah, we are close to that 1950s. It was, so shall I tell the answer?
4 or something.
Sorry?
Is he the winner?
It's up to you to decide.
Prateek.
Yeah, so it was proposed in 1956 by John McCarthy, and it's in a conference called Dartmouth Conference. So Marvin Minsky and various other people attended this conference, and it's in that way they are all contemporary and they are all involved in the development of AI. Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any questions? So if no questions, then let's thank the speaker. There's a question? Okay.
Actually,